Hey folks, this is Samuel Huber from SamuelHuber.net, Samuel Huber on Facebook, Samuel Huber on YouTube, Huber Family Adventures on Instagram. I'm here today with yet another episode of Heroes of Autism. I'm here with a childhood hero of mine, Arjen, who is, um, folks, I apologize, I'm going to probably be fanboying a lot during this interview because this man has inspired a lot of my own musical tastes, introduced me to so many amazing musicians over the years. But for those of you who don't know who you are, can you give the folks a bit of a bio on who you are?
Well, I'm 60 by now. Oh, damn it. I hear myself say it loud. It's terrible. 60 years old. I started playing guitar, I think, when I was 15. Then, straight out of school, I joined a professional band called Bodine. And I think from, let's say, 1980 till 1995, I've been touring the world with various bands. And at some point in the 90s, I was like, this is not my life, you know. And also the band didn't really take off, and I decided to make a rock opera. And it was really a decision like, okay, you know, everything else failed. I tried to please the fans. I tried to please the record company. I tried to please the band members, and now I want to do something on my own and just please myself and do something really weird, because the 90s was the years of grunge, you know, of Pearl Jam and Nirvana, and I decided to make a progressive rock opera, which was crazy in those days. But I thought, it's called the final experiment, and I really thought it would be my final experiment.
Mm.
And indeed, I finished it, and no one was interested. I mean, all record companies told me, we love it, and we're going to play it at home, but we will not sign you because this will not sell. Until a record company in Japan, JVC, they loved it. They said we release it, and then a small label in Holland released it too, and it started selling. Man, it was like 1,000, 5,000, 10,000, 20,000, 30,000, and it just kept going. And apparently there was an audience, and no one knew there was an audience for progressive rock operas with so many styles. You know, it has metal, it has rock, it has electronic, it has folk, classical music, classic rock, electronic, everything. But yeah, there was a market for it, and that was the start of Ayreon, which I've done about eight or nine albums now with Ayreon, and it's becoming more and more of a success. So yeah, basically I write rock operas, and I haven't played live in 20 years, but since a couple of years I also play live with it, but just very rarely, just once every 2 years or something.
Mm.
So yeah, there you go.
Yeah, and speaking as a longtime fan, like folks, these rock operas are I would be rapper with what the Who did with Tommy, but it definitely way more complex for
Mhm.
complex because he has usually like 10 to 15 singers playing characters, amazing musicians backing him up, and amazing. Um, and I guess like let's before we dive into the heart of this interview, which is the theory of everything, which is one of your albums. How did you come up? Like, what was your inspiration for like Ayreon? Like, because science fiction is, you know, the main theme of most of your albums. So, like, how did you come up with? Oh, let me like hire 15 singers, and like, 'cause logistically, I think that's like probably a nightmare. Like, how do you motivate yourself to keep doing something that crazy?
Well, a lot of people think it's really complicated to make a rock opera with 15 singers, but for me, it makes it easier. It would be, for me, it would be much harder to make one album with one singer. You know, now I have like 15 or 10 or once even 17 singers. So I've got all these amazing voices to tell a story with. And I got someone for a low part and someone for a powerful part, someone for a melodic part. And I got all these pawns that I can put in. And so yeah, I really enjoy it. And you know, you get to work with your childhood heroes. You know, I get to work with people like Bruce Dickinson and Rick Wakeman and Keith Emerson and yeah, all those people that I grew up listening to as a kid are now playing on my albums. That's fantastic. So yeah, the rewards are so big that I will probably keep doing this until I don't breathe anymore. Until I drop that, I'll probably be doing this.
Yeah, and that's one of the things I really love about your album. Like all the bands that I grew up with, and all of a sudden I'm hearing like Bruce Dickinson, Keith Emerson, all these amazing vocalists coming in and playing like characters, and
Mhm.
it's really amazing stuff. And as a beginning musician myself, I tried writing my own rock opera inspired by into the Electric Castle and all
Oh,
your
cool.
great work. But then I became, as you like to call yourself, a bit of a control freak with how the music was going to go, and then the other musicians just were like, no.
Yeah, 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 yeah. Well, that's why I did it on my own,
Mm.
all on my own. And always prefer to be alone anyway. Those years, 20, 15 years touring was, in the beginning, it was fun. You're 20, and it's the girls and the booze and having fun, and it's fun for a couple of years, but then you start feeling very empty, and you have to be with a lot of people that you don't want to be with. And at some point, we did a show and you're playing in front of thousands of people, and I was on stage. I want to get home and watch Columbo. And that's the point where I decided, like, okay, let's not do this anymore.
Mm. Yeah, I can definitely feel that, and also the whole touring and partying thing. Like, I think it wanes on the music. Like, what I love about every one of your albums is like every note, every like that sung or played on an instrument has a purpose and is played with such clarity, rather than that
Hmm.
that fog that touring and drugs and alcohol often derail the talented musicians like yourself.
Oh
But
yeah, yeah. It's not creative at all. It's a myth that it's so great. It's just when you're touring, you're just waiting and waiting, waiting in the van and waiting in the dressing room and waiting in the hotel, and then you're on stage, and every night it's the same thing and the same jokes with the band members, same songs. It's not creative at all. And then you go to the hotel, you just booze, and the next day you feel shit. And
right,
uh, and I want to be creative. That's my dream. Like the other band members always wanted to play live, and I always wanted to be in the studio and create stuff.
right. Because in the studio, you feel like you're the one in control. Because like mics can give you weird feedback live. The fans can be rude. The smell of stale beer and cigarettes. That's not
Hmm.
very. That's not fun.
No, no, it was fun. Really, it was fun in the beginning.
Mm,
Because suddenly you're someone,
right.
and suddenly you can get the girls, and you get a lot of attention and stuff. But then at some point you realize, wait a minute, this is empty. But it's for me personally. I mean, other bands, of course, everyone always says the Stones are still playing. They probably really enjoy it, or they found a way to live in that style. But it's just for me personally, it's not my lifestyle.
Hmm. Yeah, and I think that's what makes your music so great, because you put all of, I think, you into your
Oh,
music.
absolutely, yeah, yeah. Ayreon is 100% me. Yeah.
Yeah, and over the years listening to them, I do feel like I've gotten to really know you, like reading between the lines of all the lyrics and the emotions, especially on Human Equation. Um, and then I've talked to you privately about you thinking maybe you have Asperger's, even though you've never been diagnosed. And then I really connected with, again, the heart of this interview. Let's dive right into that now. The Theory of Everything, which is a concept album about um, basically an autistic prodigy discovers the theory of how the cosmos works, and then he meets characters, his parents, that manipulate him and deal with experimental drugs, and it's a very complex issue. For those of you who have not heard this beautiful album, can you tell the folks the overall story and how you came up with the concept?
Whoa, it's a long time ago. I wish I prepared for this. Well, it started. I'm a huge fan of science. That's clear. I'm more a fan of science than of fantasy. I mean, dragons and shit is not really my thing. I love science, and then I love turning science into fiction. So obviously, the theory of everything is something I became aware of because of Stephen Hawking. You know, and people are trying to find the theory of everything. And my math is awful, horribly, so I don't understand anything about the math side of things. But really, the people trying to find out the secrets of the universe, the real secrets of the universe, that really attracts me. So I wanted to do an album about that. And I've also gone through heavy depression while I was doing the 001 album, so uh, I know what it is to have to take medicine and stuff like that, antidepressants, and I wanted to combine the whole thing in one story, the theory of everything. So yeah, it's basically about a guy who's trying to find the theory of everything. Um, Oh man, it's a long time ago. You helped me with the story.
All right, I can, yeah, since I did the research. So, folks, the story basically is it's about a young autistic person who's in school, doesn't talk really, but is brilliant at math. His teacher discovers he's brilliant. His dad is also brilliant at math, who's also chasing down the theory of everything.
Right. Yeah.
And his mother is kind of like, I want my son to have a normal life. Why are you forcing him to help? And he meets a rival who's also good at math, who's jealous of the fact I used to be the star here, and now
Right.
Who the hell are you? And then this girl falls for the main character, and then they go to a therapist who introduces them to an experimental drug that allows the main character to join the world and actually start really working on the theory of everything, and starts producing great results. But then the mom has no idea this is going on while the dad's secretly feeding him this experimental drug. Then the main character finds out, there's dad and him clash. He runs away, tries to live with his girlfriend for a minute, but then mom, and he runs away from her because the idea is he goes off the drug and he starts regressing, and both mom and his girlfriend are struggling to keep him together. And then the story pretty much ends with the dad committing suicide because he's full of regret after fighting with mom for a while over this, and he ends up at this lighthouse where he finds the theory of everything, and his dad's ghost, pretty much, at least that's my interpretation of what happened. They complete the theory of everything, and we're left with like, who completed this theory? Because the boy's, like, in my interpretation, like passed out on the floor after finishing it. And so that, folks, that's my interpretation of the theory of everything.
Oh, it's perfect. Way better than I would have done it. Yeah. No, very good.
Yeah, I've been listening to this album for the last month, just prepping for this interview. And it's just such a huge, I emotionally connect with that because I myself experienced, and as you just told us, experienced that whole taking medication and altering our minds in weird ways. So my next question for you is, how do you pick the singers to play the characters? Do you like just imagine, oh, like this character is like sassy? Because I know with comments from Ed Guy, like, oh, I need someone sassy to play the space captain on the last Ayreon album.
Right, yeah.
So do you just imagine, oh, this is what the mom would sound like, this is what the prodigy would sound like?
It goes both ways, really. Sometimes I prefer to work with the fact that I choose a singer, and then I write the character based on the singer, because that way you're not limited. If a good example is Into the Electric Castle. If I would look for say I want a Scottish person in the story. I want a Highlander in the story, and I have to find a Scottish person. That's really hard. But it was the other way around. I got Fish to be on the album, so I wrote a Scottish person into the story.
Mm-hmm.
So that's often how I work. Also on my latest album, uh, okay, I have this character. Which part would work the best for this character? But on theory, everything, I think it was a bit different. I think I had certain types in mind and tried to find the person who fits that part. But it's hard, of course. Someone like Marco, who plays the evil guy here. He looks kind of evil, with his beard, but he's such a nice guy, so that doesn't really fit. But yeah, kind of like John Wetton playing the psychiatrist. I think that really fits with his person. So yeah, for me, it's very important that the character and the singer they fit together. That's very important.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that's what I really like, is like, I've laid in my bed listening to this album and all your albums, in fact, for hours and hours and hours, and I can like see the characters interact. And I think the other huge part of why I'm sure a lot of other of your fans can visualize this is because your music is so beautiful and complex,
Mm-hmm.
So many different styles to help convey the mood. How do you write such amazing, vastly different music every time to not only be moving, but also help move the story forward and convey certain moods?
It's really, I'm not thinking about it too much. It's step by step. It's not like I'm this mastermind who suddenly has this whole story in my head. That's not the way it works at all. It's baby steps, and that's the only way I can do it. Because I keep saying to people, I'm not a virtuoso, I'm not a genius. I really have to work for it. And I know, because I've worked with geniuses and they just do it, they don't even have to think about it. Me, I have to really work for it. It starts with a little idea on the guitar. And then I record all these little ideas. And at that point, I have no idea what it will be, what the story will be, and not even what project it will be. Then I put all these parts together, and then I kind of arrange them, and I still don't know what it's going to be. And then at some point, a story starts developing. Okay, so this, and I put that part there, and I let the music inspire me to come up with a story. It's more than the other way around. And then, like I told you, then at some point, I find the singer. So it's not, I have already had the singers in mind. Then I see, okay, who can I get for singers? I contact a lot of the favorite singers who I would like to work with. And then I try to write them into the story. So, yeah, often people explain try to explain how I do it, but it's really, it's just step by step, and constantly changing your mind, and also allowing yourself to change your mind, because I had to learn that, because when I started the first Ayreon, I had this in mind, and this singer should do that, and the story should go like this, and then I couldn't expand anymore. Singers were limited, everyone was limited. And then I started working with people like Bruce Dickinson, people like Fish, who didn't give a shit what I was telling them. They did it their way, Devin Townsend is a good example.
Yeah.
And then suddenly you notice, like, oh my God, this is way better than what I had in mind. So I should allow myself to change my mind all the time. Also, like I said, when I'm working on a project, like the last project I did now, Transitus, was not becoming an Ayreon, was not planned as an Ayreon, but at some point I'm like, okay, could this be an Ayreon? Constantly changing my mind, which drives people around me totally crazy, of course. But you said that this and that. Yeah, I know, but today I think it totally different. So that really helps me to keep modifying it, keep making it better. I don't have deadlines. I am my own boss. I work alone. So I can just keep going till I'm 100% happy. and then I offer it to the record company when,
Yeah.
when it's all done.
Mm, yeah, and that's one of the things that why you're one of my biggest musical heroes is that it's very clear if you just listen to any one of your albums, this is your own thing. This is not a record company saying you need to come up with a #1 hit, right?
No, no,
It's
no.
never,
But I've had that for 15 years. When I was in bands, I had record companies, and you got to write this hit, and then at some point you write an album with all attempts for hits, and there is no hit, so the album flops.
mhm.
So I think you should better, if you really do what you like yourself. What are my influences? You were talking about Tommy, Jesus Christ Superstar, of course, Beatles, Pink Floyd, Led Zeppelin, Black Sabbath, Deep Purple. Those are my influences, and that's what I like, and that's what I should do, and not try to be Bon Jovi or whatever, or
Mhm.
because I can't do that. I can't make hits. I have to. I've never had a hit in my life. I've never even come close, so I'm not even gonna try. And that's why with Theory of Everything, I came up with an album of 4 long songs of 20 minutes, which is like completely. It's a difficult album, Theory of Everything. It hasn't got clear choruses. It's not a catchy album. You really have to play it a lot of times to enjoy it. And it also doesn't have any standout tracks, which is weird. It's just 4 tracks who are really well balanced, what I think. Because when we did Ayreon Universe, of course, I picked what I thought were the catchiest tracks of all the albums to play live. And Theory of Everything, I couldn't find it. It was all these little 42 little pieces. 42, of course, being the meaning of life. Um, and I just couldn't pick, so I just picked the title track, Theory of Everything, and glued it together. But yeah, it's a difficult album, and it's also one of the albums that sold just a little bit less than the others, because I think it was maybe too difficult for people, and also the decision to divide it up into 42 parts might not have been a good idea. Because also a lot of people, they can't when one part goes to another part, there's like a little space, so they hear all the transitions, which is shit. That should not have happened. So it should have just been 4 long tracks. But at the point, I thought if people want to skip to their favorite part, it's easier to just divide it up. Because I remember my favorite album when I was growing up in the 70s was "Thick as a Brick" of Jethro Tull, which is
Great album.
two sides of 20 minutes, And if I wanted to skip to my favorite part, you just had to search. Where was it? So basically, that's why I chose for the 42 parts. And of course, it's fun, because 42 is the meaning of life in the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. So that was a nice little joke. That's why I made it exactly 42 parts. But if I would re-release the album, I would just make it 4 long tracks.
Yeah, and that's one of the, I think, great things. Why I think all your albums are timeless, because you can go back and you can hear, even if you heard the album 100 times, you always hear something new. Like, oh, that drum on track 38 was just insanely good. And that's why I put it right up there with like your album's right up there with like Dark Side of the Moon, because it's like I've heard that album hundreds of times, but I always hear, how did Waters do that, Gilmore do that, and do that, and the same thing. I have the exact same fun experience with every one of your albums. Like,
well, you sure know how to give a compliment, Samuel. Well, comparisons with Pink Floyd are very welcome.
Like I said, I'm a big fan of yours, and I told my viewers I'm going to be fanboying throughout this interview with you, because it's just I just like these albums are what inspired me to try writing my own rock operas and music, and to tell a story rather than just write "She Loves You" kind of songs.
Yeah. It adds an extra dimension. When I listened to Jesus Christ Superstar, when I was 10 years old, it was 1970. you really were there, and you really were into the story, and you reading the lyrics, and it's such an extra dimension. And also that helps you to get through parts you don't even really like, because Cheesecake Superstar has a lot of parts that are awful, Hosanna, Hosanna, Hana. So it's, oh, but somehow, you were in the story and it got you through the story. And often those parts you did not like in the beginning, you start liking them, because you hear them so many times and they're in the story. And if you go to YouTube now and you check out a song and next song, you miss all that, So I really want to draw people in, have them sit down, headphones on, and yeah, tell a story and escape is pure escapism. What I do, like you say, there is stuff to read between the lines. Definitely, there's a lot to read there, but it's I'm not stuffing it down people's throats. So that's very important for me, that it remains escapism. I don't want to. I'm not going to write a concept album about Corona now. Because people are tired of it and they want. If they listen to my music, they want to escape the misery in the world for an hour or so.
Hey man, you already wrote a song about Corona, like Extinction Bird.
I did. I did. Yeah.
Extinction Bird. You've already done it. So
unnatural selection. Yeah, that was.
Unnatural selection. Yeah. Like,
yeah.
I was listening to the album during this pandemic. I'm like, oh my god, like, did he predict that? Is he a prophet? I'm like, no, it's. And if you really look at human history, there's viruses all throughout our history that, the plague and all that shit.
Oh yes. And this won't be the last. I mean, that's also what I say in unnatural selection. And we have to be prepared. And yeah.
Mm-hmm. And then albums like this, or any of your albums, really can help people through these kind of situations. I think, because, like you say, escapism really allows you to go into another world. But also, I think it really helps us find ourselves. And there's so much emotion in your albums that it's helped me work through a lot of emotional struggles. Guilt Machine is another perfect example that went through a very dark time in my life, and that helped me through so much. But I escaped into each track, into those stories, and
that's great.
I was able to work through a lot of my shit at the time. Cool. And I think the big thing that I think is very personal about Theory of Everything that I created, apart from the fact that the main character is on the spectrum as well, is the medication part. I know you struggled with depression. I've just struggled with ADHD, depression, anxiety. So I've taken meds at different parts of my life for those things. How did you find your way out of that depression? Was it just diving right back into Ayreon and all your other various projects?
I think mostly it was love. I think that was the big thing. I got divorced. I started living my old lifestyle again, like I told you in the beginning. The partying and shit. I started doing that again, which is, when you're 50, it's not a good idea. And once again, I found out how empty it was, and I got very sick, and I lost my sense of smell, which also had to do maybe with the depression. And really, I started living on my own, and I was all alone, and I just gave up. It was like, okay, I don't want to live anymore now. There's no way out. And people kept telling me, I've had it too, and there is a way out. But when you're in there, I'm sure really you think, there is no way out. Really, I'll never get out of this. And I still remember, I still watching Star Trek to try to escape, but all I could think of with Star Trek, like how easy it would be to kill yourself. You just take your phaser and chook, you're gone, or you step out into space. That's all I was thinking watching Star Trek. And at that point, I hate taking medicine. I realized I have to go to the doctor, and something has to be done about this, because I will not get out. So I got this stuff that the downside of it was that I would get very tired and I would eat more, which is two great things for me, because I'm skinny and I want to eat more, and I could not sleep. I've been a bad sleeper all my life, but especially in my depression, it was, I could not get through the days, I could not get through the nights. It was awful, and this stuff made me sleep. So I think that was very good that I could finally sleep again. And then basically I met Laurie. Of course, I knew Laurie already a long time from our days in Stream of Passion, where she was a guitar player. But at that point, I was still married. So we were just good friends. We were very good friends. We just felt comfortable with each other. We always, when we go to shows, we would always drive together in the car and have fun. And there was no romance yet because I was married and she had a boyfriend. But we just felt so close. So yeah, after the depression, I think a year after the depression, I got more and more in contact with her. And at some point, she said, well, maybe I can do your management. I said, that's okay, but then you have to come and live in Holland. So she came to my place basically to become my manager, but then the whole romance luckily developed. And I think that was one of the main reasons I got out of my depression. And Laurie had the same thing. She was also depressed in that time. And I think we got each other out. So it was mostly that. And of course it was the music, because my depression came right in the middle of 01. So I already wrote a lot of songs, and then there was a big hiatus in the middle. And I got back to that album, and really that started to get me going again, inspiration again. And because what they say about the blues, if you're down, you have a lot of inspiration. That's not true. not for me, when I'm down, I can't do anything. I can't write, I can't be active, or I can't be creative at all. So yeah.
Yeah, I definitely can attest to the power of a woman's love and finding the right person for you. So
yeah.
My wife's my Lori. So because I was definitely going through that myself. So I had was your albums before her, living in my apartment. Another huge part of your music is science fiction and movies. I'm really happy that you got out of the depression. I'm happy that you didn't, before I dive into movies, I'm happy that you did not kill yourself. And
no.
I'm so happy we're still getting Ayreon albums and any other projects that you're doing, that you're still here, because your music means so much to me as a fan, and it means so much to other people too, that here in the US. So.
And that's such an inspiration, you telling me that, and me getting mails from people who are so down, and my music picks them up, that's so incredible to hear, that really one of the main reasons also that keeps me going. I mean, it's the biggest compliment you can get, like going back to Bon Jovi, you can have a big hit and make a lot of money, but this, being able to change people's lives with my music and with my stories, that's that keeps me going, because I still have the black holes. After each album I dive into that black hole, and there's no inspiration, and there's no can't be creative at all, but really you saying that and getting mails like that really is really inspiring. So thanks.
You're welcome. Yeah, I imagine it. I can see you go into a black hole, because like you put so much. Your albums are 2 hours long, and so complex. I can imagine like you're just like spent. And so like record companies like, where's the next one? I'm like, you're probably like, give me a few months. Like, what do you do to recharge after? Okay, the new Ayreon album's out. Like,
yeah,
what's your process?
I don't want to recharge. I want to go straight into the next one. Really, I haven't been on a holiday for 25 years. I'm always at home. I would just want to dive into the next one, but the more you want it, the less it's going to happen, you know. Now I just grab my guitar, nothing coming, and I think about, okay, what do I want to do? Maybe this, and it's just not happening because the more I want it, the less it happens. So that's how I get into the black hole, and it's always hard to get out of that. You always think, okay, the well is empty now, nothing is going to come anymore. You think it every time, but somehow it always does. So yeah, how do I recharge? The only way to recharge for me is to dive into something new, to get creative again. And mostly all it takes is like one song, you know, that, or one idea that you think, okay, that's really strong, and then you get your confidence back, and then the next idea comes. But it hasn't so far. So luckily, now I can do promotion, you know, I can do interviews, and I can work on the video clips, and I can work on the artwork and all that shit. So yeah, I'm a total control freak, and I want to be involved in everything. And I enjoy that too. I enjoy that as much now. Well, not as much as recording and writing, but I love that too. You know, that's being involved in that and creating the perfect package. Because I want to spoil the fans with every package I make. You know, should be every time they buy something from me, they can buy it blindly, and they will know, like, okay, you know, that's it's all 100%, and that gives me a lot of satisfaction, you know, to spoil everyone. That's
you certainly spoil us. That's for sure. I think I'm going to guess the other huge part that gets the wheels going is movies, because I know for Theory for Everything, you've been quoted as saying that Beautiful Mind and Rain Man were
right. Yeah.
the inspiration for the lyrics, and I've seen interviews where I think it was kind of like a little bio on you where you're sitting and watching Star Trek with your guitar and just like doodling along on the guitar.
Yeah.
Is that also part of the creative process? You're just sitting watching these movies. I know.
Oh yeah. It's the thing I do the best, maybe even more than listening to music. Each day I look forward to the evening where we got these two electric chairs. It sounds terrible, electric chair. I mean, a chair, you know, a leather chair that you can move around. We sit in our chairs, and we have this big screen, and we eat, you know, and we watch something very cool, and that's my favorite part of the day. So watching a good movie or a good TV series, that that really inspires me. Not in like, okay, I watch an action movie and I was suddenly going to write a fast song, but just, you know, feeling good, watching something that's been done really well. That it can also be art, you know, watching a painting or whatever, but that is inspiring. So yeah, I really need that, you know, my evening of just together with Laurie watching something amazing.
Yeah, I could never respect that. You need your creative process. You need that time to unwind.
Yeah.
What are you guys watching now?
We were watching Ozark, which is really good. It was really good in the beginning. I was like, it's complex. But then we have seen 3 seasons now, and it was very, very, very cool. And then after that, we're always watching documentaries, you know, watching something about serial killers now, interviews with serial killers, you know, what's going on in their mind and how can they do that and stuff like that. So yeah, and now right now we sometimes watch like old stuff that we've already seen, because that so now we started watching Lost again, you know, which in the beginning we hated, but we're having a lot of fun with it now. So but yeah, different stuff.
Yeah, and definitely like I get inspired with my writing and stuff by watching, you know, stuff like Lost and science fiction and all that stuff as well. Even like serial killer, that'd be a great Ayreon album. Like the different minds in a serial killer could be singers. It could be human equation, but much darker.
Mhm.
Just throwing out an idea there. I'm gonna fanboy for a minute here. One of the big things that I wanted to ask you, when this album came out, Theory of Everything, I know that John Anderson did some demos for the album, and you already got Keith Emerson, Rick Wakeman, all these great '70s prog artists.
I
Why
know.
didn't you use John? Like, yes, close, close to the edge, fragile.
I know. It's my total hero, and I've been trying him since the beginning. Since the beginning of Ayreon, I've always tried him. Because Fragile was my first prog album probably from Yes, and the Yes album, of course.
Mhm.
Huge Yes fan, and especially his voice and his singing and his melodies. And finally, I got in contact with him, and I explained him Theory of Everything. Explained him what it's about, and I played him some stuff, and he really liked it. He really loved it,
Mhm.
and actually, he told me send me some parts, so I sent him 4 parts. And I think he recorded them the same day or the day after, and he sent them back to me.
Mhm.
And I was like, I was not like, oh yeah, this is it, because just because he's one of my favorite singers, and just because he's a hero doesn't mean I'm just gonna use it. That I'm
Mhm.
too much of a perfectionist for that. So I said, well, it's a good basis, and but you're playing part in a story,
Mhm.
and so yeah, the lyrics would need to reflect that, would need to be part of the story. And
Mhm.
then stuff just got complicated and complicated until it was just okay, this is not going to work. So yeah, I got 4 songs with John Anderson on it that I can never use, which is a shame.
Yeah, well, hopefully you'll come up with another part for him in the future. While we still,
No,
while
no, I, I won't try that again. No,
we,
that was not a good experience. No,
that's,
I'm really, music is all about emotion for me, and I want to work with people who are excited and who are like, yeah, let's try this, and who are nice. And this
mm,
was not a nice experience, so I won't try that again. So yeah, it's a true shame. That's always my biggest fear if you contact heroes, that you might be disappointed, and that destroys a part of your childhood.
oh, I hear you. Like that, like just as you were describing it, like a bubble burst. And like
I know,
Close to
because
the Edge is just such an important album
I
for
know,
me.
yeah.
To hear that he's, a bit of he's difficult for lack of better.
Well, he's weird. Yeah, it's like, for instance, Alice Cooper is my all-time hero. He had like the humor, and he had the cool lyrics and the cool eclectic music and stuff like that. And I've had the possibility to meet him like 3 or 4 times, but I was so afraid, because he was such a big part of my childhood. So afraid he would have a bad day, and hey, man, who are you, man? Fuck off! Oh man, I would be devastated. And so
I hear he's incredibly nice.
I know he's always nice, but especially then, if he's having a bad, or what am I gonna tell him? I'll be like, I have all your albums,
Mhm.
I don't know what to tell him. So yeah, of course, I've been trying to get him on the album a lot of times, and one time I came very close with his personal manager. Then his personal manager died, Brian Nelson,
Ooh.
unfortunately. And then of course Tobias Sammet with Aphantasia got him, and that made me furious.
Yeah, but I totally get you with Alice because one time my cousin actually lived not that far from him, and I saw Alice jogging. I'm like, but I was too intimidated to actually run up to him and Alice.
He was jogging.
Yeah, he was just jogging down the
Whoa,
street,
whoa, whoa,
and I'm
oh,
like,
that's cool.
it's not every day. Like the face that I
No,
had on my wall as a teenager is like just
yeah,
running by me. I'm like,
I know.
but I was just too starstruck to actually run up to him and like stop him.
Yeah, yeah.
Um,
Yeah, and furthermore, when the guy is jogging, he doesn't want to be stopped, so then you risk him saying like, "Hey, man." So
yeah,
yeah, no, it's yeah. I've had bad experiences with people like that, with musicians like that.
mm,
Not many, I have to say, but there are. yeah, it did like maybe 5 times that stuff like this happened, where I'm like, okay, you know, this was not cool, and I will not work with you again or not try with you again. It happened like 5 times, and I don't like it at all. You know, I don't want strife. I want
Mhm.
also when I do Ayreon Universe, I pick the people that I like, not the best singers in the world, although a lot of them are.
Yeah, a lot of
But
them are pretty brilliant.
I just ask people that fit into. It sounds so corny, but into the Ayreon family,
Mhm.
because the audience will see that if you come on stage and everyone is having a good time backstage, you can
Mhm.
see it on stage, you know, and so yeah, that's very important for me.
Yeah, when I've watched, the live Ariana on DVD, I can tell everyone is having an absolute
Mm.
ball, and that makes the music all the more special. Like, Into the Electric Castle is my all-time favorite album. Like,
Cool.
I put that above Dark Star. I mean, Dark Side of the Moon.
Yeah.
All that's I've listened to that album of yours more times than I can count. It's got me through so much.
Cool.
And then hearing it live and hearing the live recording was really awesome. But were there any heroes that were awesome? Because I know on this album you also had Rick Wakeman, who is my favorite keyboardist of all times. Like Journey to the Center of the Earth,
Oh yes, yeah. Six Miles
Henry
for
VIII,
Henry
just
VIII.
brilliant albums. Was he cool? Was Keith Emerson cool, or were they?
Rick Wakeman is very cool. He's cool and he's funny. And we were in the same hotel and we had breakfast together. And he's always joking. And he handed me an award. I won an award at some point, a Prague award or something. And he handed it to me. And he was making, of course, all these jokes about putting my mic stand really high because I'm so tall. And he's a fun guy and an amazing musician. Really one of the best keyboard players ever. Rick Wakeman, unfortunately, sorry, Keith Emerson, I never met him. It
Mm-hmm.
was a contact through someone else, Dave Kurtzner, who recorded him for me. So I met him later on at the Prague Awards, another Prague Awards, and I went up to him and I said, "Hey, I'm the guy you played." Oh yeah, and I had a small talk with him, and he was just a very nice man. But I could see at that time that he was very unhappy. You know, he didn't look like a happy guy to me. And
Yeah,
of course, a year later, he was gone.
yeah,
Uh,
that
so
was devastating because I freaking love Emerson, Lake and Palmer.
yeah,
Mm, Yeah, just to lose Keith, but I could also understand that losing your gift, like, which is the reason he ended his life, was because he
yeah,
couldn't play more. If you couldn't do what you
no,
do anymore, I'm sure you would feel similar. Um, and let's see, there's the psychiatrist John. What was he
John
like?
Wetton, John
Yeah.
Wetton. Uh, I didn't really have a click with him,
Mm,
but I went to England to record him, and we were just there a couple of hours, so it's hard to get to know someone,
mm.
you know. But no, I didn't really connect with him, to be honest.
All right.
So yeah, it happens. It doesn't mean he was a bad guy. He was nice enough, and he did his job. Um, but it's not like with other people where like a John Delancey, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Meeting him was just so magic and such a good guy and interested in everything
Mm-hmm.
and
Right.
really yeah. If you see
I,
the interview on the new album or on Electric Castle Live, you know,
yeah.
the moment I started talking about John Delancey, I started getting teary eyed, you know, and
Yeah.
yeah.
I totally get that. Like just talking to you today, I'm like trying hard not to jump out of my seat. That I'm talking to you. So
Yeah.
like I totally get that. Like and also doing these interviews, like I want to get like a moment, like a glimpse into who the people I'm interviewing are. And I guess the last person on that list that I want to talk about is Steve Hatchett from Genesis. What was he like?
Very nice guy. Very nice guy. I met him a couple of times and again at the Prague Awards, and he's got a very nice wife who really connected with Laurie too. Just relaxed, you know, an interested guy, and we talked about a lot about music and guitars, of course, and stuff like that. So yeah, really very nice, gentleman. So yeah, all good there.
Yeah, that's great. I
Yeah.
mean, all we have left on your bucket list is someone from Rush and Pink Floyd, I'm guessing.
Oh yes. Oh yes. Yeah. Well, definitely, Geddy Lee would be amazing. I mean, the voice is not there anymore, obviously, but yeah, I mean, Rush. You know, that's such a big part of my childhood again.
Yeah.
It's I think guess it started with 2112.
Yeah, I can see
Uh,
Hemisphere behind you.
oh right, yes. Yeah, there it is. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I loved Hemispheres. Yeah, very
Great album,
proud of
yeah.
them. And of course, Pink Floyd. I once interviewed David Gilmour,
Hmm. Yeah, I think he
which
said that it was too complex for him.
I don't think that's not the music he grew up on.
Mhm.
He grew up on BB King or whatever, or blues or that kind of music, which is logic. He's like 50 years older than me.
Right.
So this kind of music that I make is totally not a style because I gave him Electric Castle and I could see on his face like, what am I gonna do with this?
Mhm.
I'm not gonna play it. So and I fully understand. That's
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
probably when someone gives me some kind of a death metal album now, I'd
Right.
be like, yeah, yeah, I grew up with Floyd and Zeppelin and
Hmm.
Camel, well, you see Camel there too.
Hmm. Yeah. Probably for you,
Uh,
the closest you would come is Opeth.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Opeth is timeless stuff again, you know.
Hmm.
And working with Mikael, and again, the nicest guy you can imagine.
Hmm.
One
Yeah.
of the
Yeah. I shared a cigarette with him once. He's very a really nice guy.
Yeah,
Um,
he's real, very real guy, and that's what I like.
that was my sense in the like 2 minutes I got with him. Like, because I was in a show in Philadelphia, and he was just walking in the show. I'm like, can I talk? This time I actually got the nerve to actually talk to him, and he was just
Yeah, yeah.
a hero, a musical hero of mine. Really nice. And I think the last one I would love to see on Ayreon is Stephen Wilson, a Porcupine Tree. So I know on Electric Castle you quoted that you tried to get him on that
I
album.
did, I did, yeah.
Do you guys still have any kind of relationship, or is there any plans to get him singing or?
I sent him. What was it? I sent him. I think my first two albums and Strange Hobby,
Mm,
and I also sent him the demos for Electric Castle because I wanted him to be on it. And he's just very honest. He was very honest with me. I said, I think the production value is amazing. It's one of the best productions I ever heard, and you're really good at what you do. He said, but that's not my style of music. It's too what did he call it? Retro progressive, I
yeah,
guess.
I think something like that. Yeah.
So yeah, of course, the use of old mini moves, like Wakeman and Emerson did and stuff like that. It was just not his kind of music, and he was honest. And I met him later on, and I told him about Electric Castle, and I told him Fish was on it, and he said, "Oh, you should have told me Fish was on it, and maybe I would have done it."
Mm.
And what character would I have played? And I was like, "Well, you would have played the hippie." And I said, "Okay, I'm glad I didn't do that."
I can't imagine Steven Wilson as a hippie.
No,
Like,
no, no, no. But
no.
at that point, I didn't know him that well. He was
Mm,
just it was just a small band. I mean, I met him at a show, Porcupine Tree, where 200 people
right.
were watching them. And he was there with his long hair and bare feet. There you go. He was
Mm,
total hippie. And
mm,
but and later on, I met him. I met him again during a show, and we just had a short conversation because I was basically there because I wanted to work with, I think Gavin Harrison. Yeah,
yeah.
he. I
I
had him in mind for a Guilt Machine.
Yeah. That's what I was about to say. I know for Gelt Machine you had one of the Porcupine Tree drummers.
Right, right, yeah, yeah, yeah.
Nice. Still a very underrated album in my opinion of all your works.
Unfortunately, because every time I play it, I'm like, oh my god, I'm so proud of this one. Really, did I make that? Uh, but again, it was not an Ayreon. It didn't have big names. People didn't know the singer Jasper. It wasn't the concept. The lyrics were very cryptic, difficult for people. Um, so yeah, it didn't have the desired effect, Guild Machine. But I think when we played Twisted Coil live with Electric Chaos, I think people were like, "Oh, wait a minute, what is this?" You know. And of course, Damien did a great job.
Yeah, that's what I thought when I heard Damien singing it. I know you originally wanted to have Russell Allen singing Guilt Machine, but one of the things I love about what you do is you help people discover so many great musicians that otherwise they probably would have never heard of, like the guy who sung on Guilt Machine, and most of the people on Electric Castle and all your albums I've never heard of apart from Emerson, Wakeman, like all the classics. And now I know all these great musicians thanks to you.
Cool.
I think that's you probably get a kick out of that, like just the fact that people are like, oh, Annika, like the list goes on and on. People that have discovered amazing singers like her through you.
Well, it worked both ways, of course. It's great that could do that for the fans, like you, but it's also great that I could do that for the singers, of course. Give them some promotion. So yeah, it works two ways.
I guess I have two more questions before I let you go.
Sure.
One, will there be a theory of everything too? Because, like, in my opinion, the album left kind of open-ended, where like, is the world actually ready for the theory of everything? Like, I can spew off ideas like, oh, like someone discovers the theory and uses it for good or evil, and can we use this theory? Like, do you have any notion of potentially making a sequel?
Well, the thing is, we had that very cryptic ending because Laurie and me, we very much made the whole story and the lyrics together. And we had this cryptic ending, where we have different scenarios in our heads, like, okay, this is what happened, this is what will happen. And then we released it, and then you got everyone was talking about the ending, and everyone was coming up with their own interpretations. And that was cool because I never had that before. I had very clear endings,
Right.
Electric Castle, okay, the alien was the Forever was an alien who was experimenting with mankind, but with theory of everything, it was totally open. And people had such great theories, and I think some of the great theories were much better than I had in my own mind. And so we were like, yeah, this is so cool. Why explain it? And you're gonna have to explain it when you do a part two. I still remember with 2001, I love 2001, the movie, such a great movie. And the ending was so cryptic, like, what's this? And you can just speculate on what happened. And then they made 2010, which was still a good movie. But of course, they had to explain the ending. The Star Child and stuff like that. And it kind of ruins the mystery. And so that's one reason not to do a Theory of Everything part two. And a part two is always a part two, it's rarely, apart from The Godfather, rarely as good.
Empire Strikes Back.
And
Empire Strikes Back is a great sequel.
True. Empire Strikes Back was very strong, yeah. But I mean, if you look at Jaws or Omen or Exorcist, all these movies, like. So, and also when I listen to Theory of Everything, I'm so proud of it, and it sounds arrogant now, but for me, it's perfect, and I could not do something better than that, and I don't want to do the same thing again. So, no, I think there's no chance of a part two. Sorry.
It's okay. I'm just fanboying from why I have you for a moment.
Yeah.
And I totally get that, because it does take out the mystery and the magic of using your own imagination to imagine what happens next.
Right.
And I totally get that, and I'm sure you also get a kick out of the fact that there are a lot of editorial videos on the Ayreon universe, like how does all the stories tie together, looking for those little Easter eggs.
It's very cool. It's very cool because when I started, it wasn't a master plan. When I started Final Experiment, I did not have this big story in mind. And then I did Actual Fantasy, which was something completely different.
Mm.
And then I did Electric Castle, which somehow hinted back here and there at Fine Experiment. And then, of course, you got the Universal Migrator, which all of a sudden brought all the albums together. And then the story started developing slowly, but it wasn't a master plan where I have the whole story in my head.
Mm.
So it's great fun to build upon the story, and especially with the source and 0 1, and find ways in and find ways out,
Mm.
um, or even just small links here and there. That's very cool. But every now and then, like with Theory of Everything, or like with Human Equation, and now with Transitus, I want to try something different,
Mm.
at the risk of repeating myself. Because I think with the source, maybe I started. I don't want to say repeating myself, but it's so much an Ayreon album.
Mm.
It's I guess what people expected, the music and also the choice of singers and musicians. Um, I really felt it was time to do something very different.
Mm. Yeah. I mean, I really enjoy the source because it's very guitar driven and still I think a brilliant album. And I like to listen to 0 1 and the source back to back.
Cool.
So,
Yeah.
I get the whole thing about not wanting to repeat yourself because, I mean, that's how you stay relevant. That's how you still enjoy what you do because you're writing into the Electric Castle for the 5th time. Like, imagine that would be boring, but like
Yeah.
part 5, the hippie has psychic powers, like, that makes like no sense. You don't want to get to that point, so I totally get that. And I get my final topic for to talk about is your new album, which is different than anything I've seen you do.
Yeah.
It's dark, it's gothic. You got Tom Baker. Can you tell the folks a bit about the new album? How you came up with the idea? Just anything you want to say about
Well,
the new album?
the basic idea was to make a movie, because that's my big dream still. That's one thing I never did, make a movie. But then, of course, the big productions, they cost 250 million, dollars. That's, and look at the more low budget things, they still cost 50 million euros, or dollars. So if you want to make a really, really, really low budget movie, and I'm talking about science fiction fantasy, of course, then it's still a couple of millions. So as I was working on it, I realized how hard it is to get funding for this and to get people interested for this. So at some point I decided, like, is this an Ayreon? So I went to the record company and said, played the music and showed them the comic and stuff like that. And they were like, yeah, this definitely sounds like an Ayreon. It's different. It's very different, but that's a good thing, because it is a progressive project. So progressive means, of course, doing something different. So yeah, the plan was to make a movie. At some point, I decided, okay, this doesn't become a movie. It would be very cool if it at least a comic book. And being the total nerd I am, I love comic books as a kid. I couldn't wait to run home to read the new Spider-Man, or Creepy or Mad or whatever. So yeah, doing a comic book was a big challenge for me, because suddenly I had to write the comic book and come up with the panels and tell the artist exactly what to do. But that was fun. That was fun. That was a new challenge. And music-wise, it seems dark because of the cover, but it's not such a dark album. I think there's still humor in it. You got the Angel of Death, who's kind of cheeky, and of course you got Mike Mills, who is a dumb piece of rock, So there's still humor in it. I think this album might be more almost musical like, more than rock opera like. So yeah, I guess people who don't know what to expect at first listen, they will be like, what's this, especially the first 10 minutes, because it's basically a very cinematic first 10 minutes where you have Tom Baker telling us a story, and you go from one extreme into the other. You go to big choirs like The Omen, into a Pink Floydy part, into a ninth, eighth proggy part, and really the first 10 minutes are like, oh my god, what's happening here? And I've already talked to journalists who were like, the first time they played it, they were like, listen to it, they were like, "Oh, I don't know if I could like this," you know.
Mm.
And they really had to listen to it a second time. And of course, you have to like narration. You know, if you don't like narration, then which also happens with people, then we have a problem because Tom Baker is, it's not long, it's a few sentences, but he's in between every song, which was basically a last minute decision because yeah, at the last moment I thought someone was missing, something is missing, and then we decided to ask Tom Baker to do it, and it really it was really very important for the whole feel, and it's like Richard Burton, you know, in War of the Worlds.
Mm.
um, I don't mind it at all, the narration. It's, I'm looking forward to, you know, to his hearing his voice again, because if it's done badly, it's awful, you know. It really, voiceover, get away, get me to the music, you know. When it's a voice like, it was dark, it was a dark, cold night, you know, that it will drive you crazy. But if it's done really well, like Richard Burton
Mm.
or David Hemmings on Journey to the Center of the Earth, I loved it too, the way he did that. Big
Yeah,
way.
that was great.
Yeah, so yeah, if it's done well, I think narration can be very cool.
Yeah, and the fact that you're getting the doctor to narrate this album, like I'm gonna be, as I've been fanboying through this whole interview, I'm gonna be fanboying just listening to Tom Riggs. I'm like just seeing the images from the comic book that we've already gotten from you, like, oh, like this reminds me of so many Tom Baker Doctor Who episodes. The way that those old '70s,
Oh
early
yes, oh
sets
yeah,
were,
yeah,
that
oh
there's
yes,
some
yeah.
very gothic Tom Baker episodes.
Yeah, very, yeah. And I think I don't know if you got the earbook, but there's a DVD on it with the behind the scenes, which is very cool. Laurie made the behind the scenes, and there's a big part about Tom Baker, you know, where I talk to him and you see him work in the studio and stuff like that, and that's
Yeah,
really cool to
I
see.
haven't ordered it yet, but I definitely plan to. I would love to watch you two work together and work with the other amazing musicians that are on this album.
Mm.
Because you know, I've in preparation for this video and watching all the interviews I can find on you and all that stuff to get a real feel for who you are. So yeah, it does sound like a really exciting album. So what is like the overall story, if you're allowed to tell us, to get, give us a little teaser for September?
Sorry, what was the question?
Well, what is the overall story of the new album, if you're allowed to tell us?
Well, uh, it's very hard to tell the story without spoiling stuff. You know, already when I start with the beginning, I'm already spoiling things. So I decided not to. And
Mm.
also, you know, I read a lot of interviews in magazines where people are like explaining what the album is about, and I was like, oh, I'm always like, I'm not interested, you know. But we have the yearbook, and in the yearbook on each page we have the comic book, and we have the lyrics. So the cool thing is you can get the whole story in one go. You know, you can open the pages and listen to the music, read the comic, read the lyrics all at the same time. Because I had people asking me like, what should we do? Shall we first read the comic and then listen to the story? You know, which is a good idea, but then you already know the ending.
Right.
But this gives you the possibility to do everything at the same time.
Yeah, that's definitely gonna be
Uh,
my plan once
but
I order.
but you're gonna have to listen a couple of times, of course, because it's, again, as with all Arions, it's a lot of information to.
And well, dude, that's what makes your music so brilliant. Because if I, understood what you were saying the first time around, I would get bored as a musician myself. Like while the Beatles are wonderful, like I know exactly the storyline the first time hearing a Beatles song. With Ayreon, even the single song, like I had to think about that song for a while. Like, what exactly is he trying to say here, or what's going
Mhm.
on with the character? And that's what keeps me coming back and listening to Into the Electric Castle hundreds and hundreds of times, is
Cool.
because it's complex and you put a lot of humanity and emotion into every song and every story, and that's what I think keeps everyone coming back. and hungry for more Ayreon and your other projects. So folks, that's been another episode of Heroes of Autism. I'm here with my childhood hero, Arjen. We talked about the theory of everything. Check out the album. Check out all of his other albums. Check out the new one coming out in September. Sir, it's been just a true honor meeting you and talking to you for today. Thank you so much for coming on my show.
You're very welcome, man. I enjoyed it, so it was fun.
All right, folks, please subscribe to my channel below. I'll talk to you guys again when my next interview comes out. Aaron, thank you so much.
Okay.